So we're now getting some market reactions to Trump's tariff announcement and what he called Liberation Day. I want to go over that and some numbers. And let's just jump right in. So this is in the USA. Stock futures plunge after tariff announcement. Basically, all the indices are down, be it the Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ futures. Globally, you got this. It's a disaster. Global markets slide after Trump unveils tariffs. So basically, markets don't like what Trump did. And for those of you who think Trump is an economic, mastermind, well, maybe, but I'll just say this. Everyone else in the world, all the markets tend to disagree. So there's that. Guys, markets, they're calling it out. You also got this. EU threatens countermeasures and Asian markets plunge after Trump tariff announcement. These are one of the op-eds I thought was an interesting one. Liberation from what? Trump promised lower prices. His tariffs risk the opposite. Basically, this is a tax on you. Want to make that really clear. It's a tax on you. And this is going to be a regressive tax, meaning that it will hurt lower income families more. Trump is also proposing then tax cuts for wealthy incomes. So that's kind of what we're looking at. He wants to do his sovereign wealth fund, which I've told you guys several times is basically create a slush fund, use the tariff money, throw it in the slush fund, give it to Musk and his billionaire buddies. The White House Twitter account had this really bizarre thing here. I want to share it with you. It says, "Happy Liberation Day, America, American flag, and money bag." So they always act like that we're going to get so rich off of Trump's tariffs. Maybe Musk and Trump and their billionaire buddies get rich, but for the 99% of the rest of the world, maybe not so much. Basically, they put a 5 up here with a whole bunch of zeros. That's according to Trump. They're trying to make it seem like you're going to get rich. President Donald J. Trump has secured nearly $5 trillion. I think that's how you read that. That's a lot of zeros in investment and trade commitments from across the globe. I honestly don't know how they came up with this number. I haven't seen anyone else put out this number except for them. I think this is a load of hooey, but that's what they do, and that's what they're floating. If you want to watch the video, it's a 3-minute thing. They use like superhero kind of dramatic movie music, and they try to paint Trump like a hero, and they just make up some numbers out of their butt saying we're going to be all rich from $5 trillion, etc. For real. This is also on the White House website. They have a couple announcements, the duties for the amendment. They also got regulating imports. And then on the same day, true story, on their website, they have the World Autism Awareness Day 2025. So the day they announced their new tariffs and Liberation Day, they also want you to know that it's World Autism Awareness Day. It's like, does anyone check their website? It's insane. Well, Trump is insane, so I'll listen to this.
As I said before, the price of eggs dropped now 59%, and they're going down more, and the availability is fantastic. They were saying that for Easter, please don't use eggs. Could you use plastic eggs? I said, we don't want to do that. We want to, and you really came through. It's an amazing job. Thank you very much, Brooke. You did great. But likewise, an old-fashioned term that we use, groceries. I used it in the campaign. It's such an old-fashioned term, but a beautiful term, groceries. It sort of says a bag with different things in it. Groceries went through the roof.
So that was Trump saying groceries are a wonderful thing. That's how he talks. This always got to remind you that, yes, these people really are celebrating Autism Day. On top of that, you got this. China and EU vow to retaliate as markets face fallout from trade war. And you can go through all the numbers of every particular country that's dealing with trade in USA, what the tariff level is at. The main thing that stuck out to me was there's no way that Trump and this team of incompetent people are going to be able to negotiate with multiple countries all at the same time and figure out a way that, is fair policy for all of us. Again, they're just looking to make policy that is beneficial to them and their billionaire buddies. That's essentially what they're doing. And they want to roll everything back to effectively the 1930s. I told you guys before, this tariff thing is like the highest it's been in 100 years. We're looking at Great Depression kind of stuff. Then you got the whole Muskie stuff, which wants to send us back to 1939, right? That was the Tesla poster. And you got this crazy thing that shows that their priority is to protect Tesla. Have a look at this.
I've made it clear, if you take part in the wave of domestic terrorism against Tesla properties, we will find you, arrest you, and put you behind bars. Today, I'm proud to announce that the Department of Justice has unsealed federal charges against another Tesla attacker. We've charged Cooper Frederick in the firebombing of a Tesla dealership that occurred on March 7th in Loveland, Colorado. All of these cases are a serious threat to public safety. Therefore, there will be no negotiating. We are seeking 20 years in prison.
So that was Pammy Bondi on protecting Tesla. And I guess if you touch a Tesla, you're going to get 20 years. But that just shows you where their priorities are. They're not really concerned about regular people. They're concerned about protecting Tesla, right? Protecting their money, putting more and more taxes on you, and taxing lower income families at a higher percentage. If you go over to Fox News, it's kind of interesting. They're neutral on their headline today. It says, "Take it in. Trump Treasury Secretary has a message for countries hit with reciprocal tariffs." So you know it's bad when even Fox News is neutral. Newsmax, which is also right-leaning, because I like to show you guys what's going around in the market. They say here, Senate rebuke, some in GOP vote to halt tariffs against Canada. So they're even showing like even the Republicans aren't united around Trump. This is how bad it is. And it's like, how can they get away with this stuff? Well, I mean, it's... Let's just see. We'll see how this plays out. I mean, the markets don't like it. People in their own party don't like it. Their goal is to protect Tesla. I mean, the whole thing's insane. And Trump fills his cabinet people with a bunch of incompetent clowns. I mean, this is what we're dealing with. I just want to remind you over and over again, remember, their goal is to tax you, put their money in the sovereign wealth fund, and then funnel that to Musk and his buddies. China has already announced a bit. They said here, China assails Trump's new tariffs, vows retaliation. And this is the quote here: "There are no winners in a trade war." That's coming from the Commerce Ministry. We'll see what exact levels end up being. China, Korea, the EU, etc. will probably be announcing stuff. Korea, this was our headlines here in Korea. Korea to engage in negotiations with the U.S. over tariffs. The EU ready to retaliate against Donald Trump's tariffs. So I think what's going on effectively is you're going to see other countries hit back the U.S. with tariffs, and then they're going to form their own trading blocks and basically hang out and without the USA. It may push more countries over to BRICS. Perhaps other currencies will be used to trade food and energy. We'll see. Right now, the standard is the dollar, so people still use that. But you never know in this world if Trump pisses off enough people. The other option would be is this country's just kind of ride it out and hopefully Trump goes away soon. That's kind of what they're thinking. Marco Rubio is going to go over to Europe, I guess, and try to mend relationships with NATO. Good luck. I'll just say this. I've really lost respect for Rubio. I think he's going to be the first person to resign. And I don't really care for many of the people, or I don't care for any of Trump's cabinet. Rubio is the one at least has some decent qualifications, but I mean, like I said, I lost respect for him mostly because he's just too close to Trump and just too much of a, what's the right word to say? I don't know, is servant the right word? Or, someone who kind of defers and bows too much, that kind of thing, puts his tail between the legs. You can't respect a guy like that. And it's the same with everyone in their cabinet. They're all sycophants. You got this as well. Let me show you this. Trump announces 10% tariffs on all imports, additional taxes for some 60 countries. I mean, it's a lot. So that's why I'm showing you like a map like this. It is all over the world. There's tariffs you guys can see. The heavier tariffs go on Asian countries and some countries in Africa. And this is what Trump is calling out our allies and friends. He's saying here, he talked about our trading partners, closest allies. Trump says they are foreign cheaters, foreign scavengers, and have ripped off Americans. It is hard to build relationships when you're calling other countries and our friends cheaters and scavengers. So there's that. You ask someone at the Council for Foreign Relations, this is their quote: "In the short run, the effect is probably a recession." So I'd actually agree with that. It's going to raise the price of so many goods that can't be made in the United States. And then they talk about the long run. In the long run, it's a vision of the U.S. that is very isolated from the world. So I guess that is the vision that Trump has for the future. Maybe MAGA wants that kind of stuff. The reason why I show you guys this kind of maps, I mean, I'm just telling you guys the truth. The world is a really big place, and there's more to the world than just the USA. I know the MAGA people think that's only USA, and we're going to have everything. It's like build this big wall around the USA, and it's going to be self-contained, like a dome in a way, or a bubble, I guess you could say. But if you want to live like Bubble Boy and Bubble Girl in your MAGA walled off land, I guess you can. But the rest of the world's going to keep going on without you. And I'll just tell you this: we're better off when we're all integrated together, and having trading partners, having friends. I think that's a good world to have friends. I don't necessarily want to call my allies, what does he say, scavengers, and what's the word to use, scavengers and cheaters. But that's what Trump and Musk are up to. On top of that, for those of you who are interested in the math behind the tariffs, this is actually quite interesting. So I guess this is the formula that they use to calculate the tariffs. And I'll explain it. They had a good explanation of it here, talking about, and this comes from Bloomberg, talking about China. So it says here how they calculate their tariffs. China, for instance, had a trade surplus of $295 billion with the U.S. last year on total exports of $438 billion. So that's a ratio of 68%. And then they divided that by 2, and you got 34%. So that's how they did it. It's kind of interesting. The same calculations roughly produce the same rates of other economies like Japan, South Korea, and European Union. Then when it comes to other countries, if they were like kind of neutral or had a surplus, it says here, countries where the U.S. runs a trade surplus were also hit, facing a flat 10% rate regardless, as did nations where trade was roughly even. So basically they did that formula, which is right here on countries where we had a deficit. Then, they did the ratio thing divided by 2. And then for other countries, we just did 10%. It's like, that's their plan. I know when you go through this stuff, you're like, really? Is that your plan? Yeah, that's their plan. This is more charts of this stuff. Now, these numbers will get updated as we get more announcements from China, because I think Trump has said, if you raise on us, we'll raise on you. And effectively, you have a trade war. So this is where everyone's on the phone right now trying to make whatever deals, and we'll see. But I don't necessarily have a lot of faith in the Trump people, and I think it's more likely that countries will, again, form trading blocks with each other. So they're not only just calling USA, they're calling each other. And I told you guys before, for example, China, Japan, and Korea recently had a meeting, which they don't do that often, and are already forming new trade relations. Trump and his team will say, hey, our boy is making lots of moves. He's, a deal maker, etc. This is an interesting chart. This actually shows how many executive orders he's done in comparison to, say, Bush, Obama, and even Biden's on the chart. And it's through the roof. Now, I don't consider making tons and tons of executive orders being active necessarily a good thing. In my opinion, I just want, president/politician just to go in, keep things running. Don't shake the boat too much, because if the ship is moving forward and you overly rock the boat, you got a Titanic situation, which I don't want. And I just kind of feel that's where we are. I'm just being perfectly frank with you guys. Already the tariffs are hurting growth around the world. You got this U.S. tariffs seen as far worse shock to China than the first trade war, and projections of China's GDP is going down. But we have seen this before, even before the tariffs. So basically, Trump's taking a bad situation and making it worse. And then you got this tariff loophole that helped Temu shine will close May 2nd. So for those of you who didn't think that the tariffs are going to affect you, well, try ordering something from a Temu or a Shine and see what happens. I think the price is going to go up. Effectively, I guess what it was is it was cheap goods essentially that would come through, tariff free. But now there's no cap. So basically all things are going to be taxed now, and you're going to end up paying for it. And so that's something you'll probably see directly. And then over time, as essentially the supply chains and the actual numbers are calculated, you'll probably start to see more cost of goods on several items. That's what we've talked about several times on the channel. So I want to hear your thoughts on any one of these things. I do appreciate your time, and I'll catch you on the next video.